Star, you look constipated. Hey there, community, and welcome to Hangout of the Avatar. We are here today on this rainy in Alaska but sunny in Austin day to talk about everybody's favorite topic. Well, not everybody's, but seems like a hot topic, PvP. And we've got our scary faces on just for the occasion. I'm going to hand it over to Chris and Star, and then we'll be taking your questions in a little bit. Please post them in chat if you haven't already posted them on the website, and we will be getting to them soon. Hey there, community, and welcome to Hangout of the Avatar.
Oh, look.
On
who's the one playing the stuff back live?
Echo thing going on. This may be
talk about everybody's favorite topic. Well, not everybody's, but it seems like a hot topic.
Not at my end.
And we've got our scary faces on just for the occasion.
That's good, Richard.
I'm going to hand it over to Chris and Star, and then we'll be taking your questions in a little bit. Please post them in chat if you haven't already posted them on the website, and we will be getting to them soon. Hey there, community, and welcome to
Star! Richard,
Help!
stop.
We've gone into a feedback loop. There we go.
Maybe, Richard, maybe drop and come back?
Topic. Well, not everybody's, but it seems like a hot topic.
Not at my end.
And we've got our scary faces on.
All right, I think we have to start over. All right,
That's good, Richard.
I'm going to
Sorry, this is live.
Well, that was fun. I got to boot them already. They'll be back soon, though. Don't worry. And we'll get back to the Hangout. But you won't have to listen to that annoying echo of my voice, so that'll be nice. Welcome back, my liege.
Good to be back. I see you're still on the air, so now we at least know that it's not my machine that was doing that feedback. I thought it was happening in Austin. We'll see when those guys rejoin us. I think it's their fault. But hey, as long as you and me have the floor, by the way, it is sunny here in New York City as well, and we're very excited to be talking to you after another very successful release here over the last few weeks with our second time up over the Rooster Teeth weekend. Oh, look, our evil boys are back, and now we can probably carry on back into letting them do their introductions before we take the questions. But one thing I do want to say too, by the way, everybody, is thank you, Seth. Thank you so much for being with us on this journey, for backing our project, for contributing your thoughts and criticisms and questions. Down through this entire journey together, and we're now getting into the meaty stuff. From here to the end of the year is going to be the really, the meaty stuff. It was pretty easy to, no controversy, at least in the, we need an avatar that walks around on the ground and can pick up things and do stuff. Now that we're getting into the nitty gritty of how it can either be extra fun or extra horrible. Combat is one of the most complex and important things to get done right. We've got our evil twins here working hard on it down in Austin. I'll pass it over to them to say hello before we take questions.
I just want to say thank you to the community. One of the things I've been noticing is for those people who follow me on the forums, I spent less time in the forums over the first, maybe second, third, fourth, fifth release. Just because it scared me going into the forums, because there was some level of negativity that is hard for even seasoned veterans to swallow sometimes. But one of the things I've been noticing over the last couple releases is everybody is much more positive, much more constructive, and we're actually seeing the real, I think people are actually becoming happy and actually getting things. Even the people before who releases 1, 2, 3, 4 were all not sure what they're seeing. Those guys have kind of turned around now. Now they're like, okay, now we get it. And anyways, thank you all for being constructive as always in the forum. Oh, and I'm Chris. I'm the tech director or something like that. But lots of hats around here as always.
Hello, I'm Star Long, aka Dark Star, and I too would like to thank you, the community, for supporting us both financially and with your very, very valuable feedback. So, what we're going to try and do is be a little more consistent about having these video hangouts. So the goal currently is that The Wednesday after a release, we will have one of these hangouts, so about once a month, and in which we will talk both about the release we just had and then preview of what's going to happen in the release along with other topics. So, just to talk about Release 7 really quickly, we were really happy with the results. We actually were able to do a lot more in the Release 7 than really any other previous release. We just were able to get a lot more content, a lot more functionality in the game, a higher level of polish. It was one of the versus staying here till 2 or 3 a.m. for the week of release. We actually were going home at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night for the first time. So that was a definite improvement. But like I said in my recollections about the release, that came at a cost. So we had some significant performance issues with a lot of this new content, and also, with the amount of practice you guys have had with the tools of crafting and with decorating, you guys were able to really, in some cases, overwhelm the system, and we egged you on to push those limits. And how many items can you actually put in a lot? So thank you very much for pushing those limits for us, but it exposed a lot of things that we need to fix. So we're going to be working on those optimizations along with, of course, what's going to be the main topic of today's discussion, which is PvP and combat. And as we mentioned in that same post, the focus of Release 8 is really going to be rapid iteration on combat using the lens of PvP for that. And so we've started daily play sessions, which mostly are focused on PvP, where we all pile into the basement arena, the castle-sized basement arena, and we go at it deathmatch style. It's just actually been the last few play sessions where people are finally sort of organizing into groups and partying up versus just sort of this mad free-for-all where it's kill or be killed. So we're starting to see a little bit of strategery. And after each one of those play sessions, we get together and we say, okay, what do we like? What do we not like? What features do we think are the most important to get in? What changes do we want to make? And often those changes are to fundamental architecture related to things of like how we do targeting, how we cast spells, how we maybe interrupt spells, how the effects of like armor versus magic and things like that. So we're exposing a lot of the underlying mechanics of the combat system through this PvP lens, and it's resulting in, if any of you guys have been following Chris's posts about what they're doing with PvP, the number of changes we're cramming like in on a daily basis just shows the benefit of this strategy.
And I'll get another post out there probably tomorrow morning, just going over the latest changes that have gone in the last 48 hours. Again, the list is pretty long in terms of things. And also because, we're normally an agile company and an agile team. We think we're kind of pushing being agile to a whole new level. But in terms of combat, we're truly pushing that to a whole new level. We have designs, but we also recognize we get in there implementing designs. If the design doesn't work, if it doesn't fit in, if it's not actually planned out to be fun, then it kind of goes in the trash. We talked about, okay, well, that's what we had planned. What do we really want to do? So you will see, just on that same note, you will see Star and I disagreeing on many things today, and you may hear two versions of things in terms of how things are going to work. And as we've seen on pretty much all of them, we figure it out pretty quick within a few play sessions as to what things actually work and what actually makes sense. There's some bigger picture things that have to do with like economy, cost of things, those type elements, durability, some of those that will not be figured out in a play session or two, but we just have to keep those in the back of our minds. We're tracking those as well. So, also just so you know, for R8, the plan is we are not going to turn on reagent use, which will make things seem somewhat balanced. We're not turning on durability. And a lot of that is because we know you guys don't have much time for these things. We will try to keep things fairly balanced even without those elements, but those are a huge balancing factor. The cost involved with reagents, with the durability. Durability is kind of the equivalent to reagents on the other side of things. So, Richard? No, you're failing.
Helps to unmute. I was going to mention on that front too, so or really it's almost a question. Is your intention then to balance as if the the repair is working, or leave it unbalanced, assuming it will be more balanced when repair is in?
So we're keeping an eye on it, but as we mentioned, it's a pretty big deal. It's kind of the for those who hadn't really thought about that much, durability on armor, durability on weapons, those type of things. There's a lot of abilities and weapon choices that have to do, like the reason to use a large hammer or pick versus a sword. One of the big differences is the large hammer can do more damage to armor, and it affects durability more. There's a lot of special attacks like body slams and things like that that you're trade-off for. I get to do a body slam, it does a lot of damage, has a good stun chance. It's a quick attack, but the trade-off is it can harm your arm quite a bit. So we're keeping it in mind. We know where it fits in the economy. We know where it fits, like in terms of player costs. We're not going to slow everybody down this weekend by forcing them to do the more tedious parts. We will force them to do probably, I'm not going to say R9 for sure, but pretty soon we will actually put those in, so there will be reagents and durability, so we can start tracking, okay, they cast X number of this spell or use this ability X number of times. When we didn't have those on, we need to start getting in there the stats of, okay, once we turn on reagents for it, how many times did they cast it? Observing what you guys are doing and what spells you use, and how that even changes day by day over play sessions is going to be, over a weekend of playing by you guys. It's one of those kind of telling things. It's day 1, Thursday, we expect people to be using different spells, and on day 4, Sunday or Monday morning, as people figure things out and that, they kind of migrate around into what the coolest abilities actually are and what things actually work for them.
So, well, shall we jump right into questions?
Yeah, let's just start at the top of the list. The questions that people posted on the update.
I do want to let you guys know that we got a couple of non-PvP questions. I'm probably going to be skipping over those unless we have time at the end, just because we did say that this was going to be a PvP hangout, and I want to go ahead and be true to that and keep it fair. So
we've kind of been combat together, so if they're combat related, we want to hear them too.
Okay.
Because it's kind of going to be PvP.
Then our first question comes from Baron Dracois. And again, I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name. Do mages have to have wands or staffs to cast a spell? And if a mage can cast a spell without a wand or staff, what's the difference? Why carry a wand?
So this is one of those where you will see Star and I disagree violently on, as to not just like little differences as to what the purpose of wands and staffs are. I'll let Star tell his side first. And I will point out that Richard sides with Star on this one, although I think if we got into the mechanics and we were in front of a whiteboard, right, and I got to beat on for a while, I think I could get him on my side.
Yeah, and if I had to fast forward to the resolution, I think we'll end up with some hybrid approach between the two. But the design that I've been proposing is basically the idea that wands and staves, which we don't even agree on how to pronounce that, according to the interwebs, it's pronounced staves, not staves. But
staves.
It's got a anyway.
I'm with Sarah on this one too.
So anyway, the idea is that those can be charged through enchanting, which is part of alchemy, with spells. So you can take basically a blank wand or a blank staff, and you can charge it with a spell, and perhaps that spell is a weaker version of the one that you cast yourself. But it takes the same kinds of reagents that you would use to cast the spell to charge that weapon, and then it functions in a very similar way to the spell itself. And the idea is that the wands hold, a few number of charges, while the staves hold a larger number of charges. Then the question, of course, becomes, well, like, what happens when you use up all those charges and you're in combat? Does the wand or staff become a bludgeon? Probably, but that's one of the things that yet to be designed. Versus Chris's idea.
Versus my idea is, I hate to use it, but it's more of a Harry Potter-ish type thing where wands and staves they're a low DPS, like plink, 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 kind of what they do right now in the build, where they're ranged. But instead of the DPS is much lower than other things. It's a mechanic so that mages can feel involved in combat even when they're not casting, because really there's going to be less casting for them. Probably the bigger cast occasionally versus the fighter who every round is attacking. This is kind of their continuous DPS that they can apply at a range. And then it also improves your mana regeneration, your focus regeneration a little bit quicker, so that then you can focus on your big spells, and it keeps you busy, makes you feel like you're not totally detached from combat, and then you get more often focused.
And what's worth noting is in both of those designs, mages are not required to use wands or staves. Like we one of the benefits of having this sort of open classless system is that we want people to be able to mix and match and be with some cost benefit, so you could wield a sword while you're casting spells.
And also the armor in combat, we can talk a little bit more about that at some point if we want to.
Yeah.
Because that actually factors in, that is planned to factor into focus regen as well. And the heavy armors, that's one thing that they do, is they, in addition to increasing fizzle chance and increasing encumbrance, they also increase mana cost and reduce mana regen as they get higher. And that's based on how much encumbrance they add, which I should point out, encumbrance is slightly different than weight, in that you carrying a suit of plate mail may add 30 to your total weight, but putting the plate mail on may add 70 to it. What your skills that reduce the penalties for armor do is they reduce the extra encumbrance penalty. So if you max it out and get it down to an extra, only weighs 30 when it weighs, it has the same negative effects on you as if you're carrying it when you're wearing it. It's kind of when you max out all these things. But those all affect your fizzle chance, and they also affect your mana regen. One of the cool things that comes from that as well is different types of armor. Because they have a penalty increasing your chance to fizzle, each spell and category, they have a base fizzle chance that denotes the difficulty of the spell, basically, and then they have an armor multiplier. So what this allows us to do is we can say, hey, guess what? Moon magic has a 2x, whatever your armor or penalty is, it's doubled. But hey, earth magic and life magic, we can say it's 0.3. So, for instance, healing spells, we kind of expect kind of the generic, if we go with the standard rules, healing spells people in play can cast, there's certain spells that they can cast. Earth magic, we can say that's kind of more of a paladin type thing, so we reduce the armor fizzle penalty on those things as well. And those numbers are already in, and that's actually one thing that went in yesterday, which I'll include in the update. So that we actually have fizzle based on your armor, and it has multipliers to it to affect that. I know that wasn't a question, but that was on the topic of mana regeneration, which is also part of mine, and part of the whole balance of balancing the, do I use a wand or do I use a sword as a mage, and what does it mean? And also that kind of factors in the same thing with armor. What if I'm plate mail wearing mage? I want to wear plate mail.
Let's get on to question 2.
Okay.
I could totally poke someone in the eye with this, though. Totally.
Yeah.
Anyway, the community wanted me to thank you before we moved on for doing this. They're having a great time. They say this feels like the old Kickstarter days, so they're enjoying the Hangout immensely. Our next question...
They like the lighting, too, I noticed.
I think they do. They really have been complimentary on the lighting. They say it adds mood. All right, our next question also comes from Baron Dracois. It is the goal of PvP to make playing a warrior that uses zero magic capable of competing against other players in PvP that are hybrids or use a lot of magic?
Well, to be crisp there, I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So if the question is really about if I am a warrior that is using only skills from the combat schools versus someone who is using magic, and by magic we specifically mean one of the schools of magic that uses reagents, etc., then yes, we are designing the system so those will be, quote, evenly matched. So you could be a pure combat school specialist and be able to go toe-to-toe with someone who is using magic or a mix of magic and combat. But if the question is, will someone who is literally just using weapons and auto-swing be able to mix it up with someone who's using special moves from the combat schools and magic spells? No. Like, the game is built around the concept that you will be using skills and spells in combat, not just doing auto-swing. So if you just pick a target and you lean back and cross your hands behind your head and just hope that you're going to win, and the other person is actually actively using their combat skills or their magic spells or a mix of the two, then the person using the skills and spells is going to win.
And also, when you actually put them into your skill bar or put them into your deck, they pretty much appear similar in that they're really just an icon to you and what you're clicking. But in terms of magic spells versus skills, skills tend to, because they generally don't have a reagent, they don't use much. Many of them actually will do durability damage. That's kind of how they pay off. But the idea with skills versus spells is spells are going to be more costly to use. They'll probably be less spells cast and you'll be using skills. Skills are kind of the faster, quicker things that you'll be using in combat, although there are some that are big. But in general, they're the keep the fighters busy, keep them entertained, because they're going to be the ones right in the thick of it, and probably will be the faster moving, faster clicking, faster everything. So they'll probably be lower focus cost, no reagent cost type thing versus spells, which will be bigger, cast.
And because of the number of questions we have and the fact that we're already 20 minutes in, 1/3 of the way through an hour, I'm gonna hold you guys to 60-second answers, at least from my end. I'm gonna get my timer out here. And next question, Gina.
We need to get you a whip. All right, Marcelo has the next question. Will it matter what position you have in regards to your enemy in order to hit him? Basically, if you're behind them, or will that increase your chance? And will chances increase if you're outnumbering an enemy?
Yeah, let me take a little bit of a piece of this one, since you guys are going to talk so much. So I think that one of the great innovations that this team made with Tabula Rasa was part of that combat style, where cover and environmental conditions did make a difference, not only to your combat, but also to AIs as they moved around a field. So yes, we are going to include something similar that's being worked on now.
Yeah, in fact, we already, in the PvP sessions, we've already added, I mean, it's not the same as position, but it's one of the components required, where we now have line of sight checks for not only can you cast this, but can you be targeted, things like that. So now we've got the mechanics of where you can hide behind the wall, move around, and we've also introduced the concept that some spells are not targeting a player, but targeting a place in the world. So like the fireball, for instance, you can target a place like on the ground in the middle of a crowd versus a specific person, and once that fireball starts, people can try to move out of the way.
And that's intentional. There's a lot of mechanics that go along with that, like for moving, like you got your healers who will stay back, your other casters who will stay back and cast long spells and not want to get involved. And that's the way that you can basically make them move or get hit. There's also allows you to dodge. It's one of those mini skill mechanics. I get 60 seconds. He doesn't get to use up my time. Skill mechanics in terms of you need to pay attention. If you see the sigil go up for the, is it sigil or sigil? We can disagree on that one too.
Sigil.
When you see the sigil go up for a fireball spell being cast, that's one of those things. If you're not paying attention, you don't see that. Then again, that's one of those skill mechanics. You need to be on your toes, paying attention to what's going on, and see that happen, knowing that you need to actually start moving away, because they're going to be casting the fireball where you were or somebody else was. And as far as mechanics for surrounding, there's also, we already got in, I don't know if it's on the last list, if it wasn't, it'll be on the next, attacking from behind reduces defense for some mechanics, and also you only attack in the forward quarter. There's also not auto-facing, so actually getting behind someone is part of the mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, shorter next time. Gina, what's the next question?
Sir Gunny asks, will we get an automatic camera so we have a free hand to trigger spells and powers during PvP? And also, is motion sickness going to be addressed?
We can't help you if you have motion sickness. In terms of the camera, in terms of the camera, he can't see it now, though. I guess maybe you can see it on some screen.
Yeah.
In terms of the camera free tracking, right now we don't have that. That's one of those things we might adjust later on if it feels to us like we need to. Right now we're trying to let you control both your direction and where your camera is looking, and not trying to force anything on you that you might not want. But that's definitely one of those things that's up in the air in terms of how we control camera. We're not trying to auto-face anymore. You'll auto-face if you're within the front 120-degree arc. If you're outside of that, then your character will not even auto-face when you attack someone. Just because that does screw up the, hey, I'm going to get behind you and attack you. And if you auto-face, well, one, it removes control from you because you may have someone in front of you and behind you. You don't want to auto-face and pop back and forth. But also it removes some of the skill element of, I need to pay attention, know that you can move behind me. I need to turn so I'm, he's no longer behind me. So, anyways, fine.
Perfect. Next question.
Our next question comes from Tech. He wants to know, will any damage help us break free if we're rooted or stunned? And will we be able to have equipment or use an action that will allow us to break free if we're stunned or rooted?
The answer to both is yes, and there are specific skills. In fact, there's a heavy armor skill called Knight's Grace, which is specifically geared towards removing things like stun and root and knockback and knockdown, et cetera, and also temporarily making you immune to those. So we have specific abilities related to that, and we are also going to work on some mechanic where excessive amounts of damage will break you out of those things, because we want to prevent this sort of chain root meds, high DPS, pump into you kind of mechanic that you can't escape, which we were exploiting wonderfully this morning in our PvP session.
Yeah, we did have it where the recycle time on root was the same as the length of root. Get away, Richard! So one person could basically chain root somebody in place. Now it takes two people, but we're also getting in the other mechanics, and also it brings up mechanics of keeping low damage spells, not breaking root, brings opportunities for like dots being more effective versus rooted people because they're less likely to break. There's lots of stuff. Yeah, I can talk for an hour now.
Wow. All right, our next question comes from Blitz 101. Blitz wants to know about guild wars and guild battles. Will we allow players in a guild to siege certain areas, and will those areas be the crucial areas of the map? And what are our plans for rewarding guilds who take part in guild battles?
These are all super interesting and great questions, but we're not working on guild stuff right now, so let's skip that one.
But we do have tons of ideas. We're just not going to get them in for R8, R9. We're really working on the mechanics and making combat fun and making group combat fun. But yes, we do have tons of ideas on those things. And those elements will be in there.
That's a long way of saying we're not going to answer it.
Yeah, that's a long way of saying it.
Yeah.
Okay, Scolari wants to know, as a crafter who rarely does any kind of combat, will I be able to avoid PvP ganking and still be able to collect resources without any disadvantage?
Yes, but as we've stated, open PvP zones will have higher resource yields than other areas. So you'll have a choice. We're not going to force you to go to those places, but if you want some of those rarer resources, you'll either have to venture into that or pay someone to go in there for you, and or buy it from a secondary market, etc. So
the answer is you will have a disadvantage. But only slightly. It's not an overcomable or disadvantage. So.
Yeah, I mean you'll leverage the rest of the people playing the game, and to help you with that, and find people that are willing to either protect you, go in there, buy it from them because they were brave enough to go in there, etc. So but it's always your choice. You're never going to be forced into a situation of player versus player if you do not want to.
And the question that should have been asked is, will there be any resources I cannot get as a single player, non-PvP, whatever? And the answer is you can get any resources. You just may have to get them through other people, or you may have to
from the market.
Get to the market.
Yep.
Okay, our next question comes from Bayridge. He wants to know what the viewpoint is right now on getting out of PvP. For example, if you have to leave for some reason, are you locked into PvP for a certain amount of time? How does logging off in the middle of a battle affect you? And he also wants to know, what about ganking? Will there be systems in place to deal with that?
Well, so to answer the last one first, as far as ganking is concerned, because we're making it so all PvP has some choice in it to begin with, then I think the point of ganking is moot because you're choosing to enter that situation. As far as escaping or leaving or whatever the mechanics are related to that, I mean, some of it will be what the standard sort of expected behavior of, like, when you log out, you don't log out immediately if you're, in combat. Your body stays behind for X amount of time, so you can't just log out to escape a battle that's not going your way. As far as like exiting the zone or being able to use teleports or things like that, I mean, we'll have some traps in place for those use cases, and we'll again, because we've sort of been to this done this rodeo before, but there will be, it's gonna be a give or take.
And there probably will be some exploits that come up. We'll find them and fix them.
I was just sitting here frustratedly staring at Richard, waiting for him to give him the cut sign or the hold up the clock or anything to him. I see how it is.
Huh. It's because of your wand position. Do you have anything to add to that?
I've got my clock right here still, so I'm...
No, I will point out though that the whole I have to exit or leave. There are those times when people will try to do it to exploit. We have to deal with those people who are doing it to exploit. But again, that's one of those things that makes the full loop PvP and the super punishing PvP in question. I am pretty sure I am not the only one who played Ultima Online, was doing PvP at some point, lost connection to the server, or the server came down, and when I log back in, I'm a ghost in the woods somewhere and have no idea where my corpse even is, even if I wanted to get to it. Great game, Star. Great.
You're welcome.
Anyways, that also points out kind of now is paying attention to people who have real life, and especially someone who now has a kid who might start crying. Do I continue to fight for 15 minutes of PvP, or do I try to quickly get out of there, and what's the action? But anyways, that's one of those things that we keep in mind. Again, no, I don't have any more to add. So.
Okay, our next question comes from Marcelo. He wants to know, in case he doesn't want to do any combat skills, will there still be basic things like punch, kick, dodge for mages or non-melee fighters?
There are some of these skills under armor that don't require an equipped weapon, and there is a default auto attack related that that you don't have to have it equipped, just a punch basically. As far as more like a whole combat school related to unarmed combat, that's probably not on tap for release 1, but it's a great expansion opportunity for sure.
And there'll be a lot of level 1 skills where you don't have to dive deep into a skill tree that should give him some opportunities to do something.
Yeah, medium armor in particular has several skills in the combat-related skills that don't require an equipped weapon.
And I believe also light armor is one of those. I think there's some faster movement skills is one of the things that shows up in the light armor that's important for light armored people to keep distance between you and the other people.
Yeah, and there's a trip skill in medium armor, which basically is a knockdown that doesn't require any kind of weapon equipment. Yeah. Okay.
Lady Andor asks, she usually plays a squishy mage, or as her running mates call her, bait, with cloth armor. Will she be able to wear the same armor as a paladin without losing casting power? Can she be a full metal mage?
This was answered earlier.
Yeah, this was, the armor, that's one of the things it will do is it actually affects you in a number of ways. In addition to the extra encumbrance that you can get down some, but it still will increase your fizzle chance, it will increase your focus cost on things. So, and it can also impact your focus region, so it's kind of the double whammy that you, effective, I think we looked at it for the heaviest plate mail, you end up, due to mana, extra cost, and fizzle rate, you end up paying about 3 times as much focus for spells as you would otherwise if you were in nothing at all. You can reduce that down, and of course there'll be some better armors that have lower numbers that are still really good armor. But yeah, you will not be as effective. You still will be able to cast any spell in plate mail, except there'll probably be some that the fizzle multiplier is so high for the spell that you just flat out will have almost no chance of casting it. And there's also the concept of there's 5 levels of failures, which do things from minor failures of just you need to restart casting it, to the next level is it will use mana, to the next level it will use reagent, to the next level is it, I forget what the next level is. Oh, there's a level in between there that is longer cooldown time, so you won't be able to cast it for some amount of time afterwards. Then it's use reagent, and then it's actually a backfire that the spell may actually hit on you. For R8, I think we're going to have the first 2 or 3 levels of those in, but we'll see which one's making it for R8, which one's making it for R9. Obviously, reagent's not for R9 because we're not going to have reagents. So, no, you will not be able to be as powerful in full plate now as casting magic.
Corvash wants to know, is there going to be a tanking skill for aggro control? If so, is there any plan to try to make it different than your typical taunts found in other MMOs?
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, with the skills, the combat skills, they're more. You'll probably be using them more often than you will be casting spells. Again, not we don't have the reagent use. They'll probably use less focus, and they'll be more to keep the fighters in combat busy. A lot of those things we are paying close attention to aggro and which ones should be high aggro. Obviously, things that debuff are high aggro, and root and slow, those type of things will be high aggro. But we are paying attention to those. But because we are focusing more on player-to-player combat, just because we feel that is the thing that would be more compelling in the next 60 days or 45 days of work, we're not focusing as much on trying to balance aggro right now. We have in our brains which ones are, but we'll see how it works out. We'll have to redo all the math. We have the ideas and formulas in our head and how that's going to work, but we probably won't get to exercise that in the next 45 days. Dar?
That's good.
Okay, we're now on to questions you guys have been asking in the chat room. Thank you for your patience. Tech wants to know, how do I find my enemy? If I go to a specific hex where I know my PvP flagged enemy is, but he's an open play online, will there be any way I can find him? Basically matching, I guess.
I don't know if that's matching, or does he mean find him in the instance, find him in the scene?
No. I think he means that if you're traveling on the outdoor map, the travel map, and somebody else has run ahead of you and is down in a certain hex of woods, how would you know that that's the hex of woods they're in, and then make sure that you go into the same instance? And the thing there broadly is, as you already know, when you join an instance, you always do join the instances that are the best populated by people already mapped out in your friends graph. But what we're also going to do is do the opposite. If you have somebody with an enemy is, in this case, just as much of a friend as far as a mapping of that friends graph is concerned. So people that you are connected to by having known them, or seen them, or played with them, or against them, that bumps up their affinity through that friends graph, so you will be mapped to them. But also, the people who when you're playing in the mode where friends see each other, you'll also see a tag on that hex that says I have a friend in that hex. So you'll have a general awareness of where all the people who you are matched with and play with are, even on the outdoor map.
And on the slim chance he was talking about the other one, finding him in scene, that's one of those things that can be challenging. We're not necessarily giving people a way to find them, but that is actually one of those things that we've discovered with the play sessions is having lights that you can turn on and off. As much as they honestly piss me off as a tech guy trying to handle the performance implications and the visual implications and all that stuff, it actually makes for fun PvP in that you can go into scenes and you can set up dark spaces and you can actually use that to your advantage. So
yeah, like
go ahead.
Like in the PvP sessions we are having right now in the arena basement, the first few sessions I would go around turning off all the lights in the upper galleries and hiding up there and ambushing people as they would either come up or weren't paying attention to what was happening above them. Because it's hard to see me up there.
And now that we have very darkness, as you have seen in the game, I think Star, you today or yesterday, talking about also making sure we add in a fairy fire kind of spell or activity to where you could tag somebody with glow paint effectively and make sure that they're visible in the dark while you might not be.
That's actually already in. You can now cast light on other people. There will probably be a second spell that is actually a fairy fire. Just having a light on somebody, that's one of the things I realized in one of the first play sessions. I went around and turned everything off, and I had no way when people came down there to do anything to cast a light on myself, which just makes me a huge target for people. So that was one of the first things we changed up, is making so you can cast light on other people. But I'll probably switch to a fairy fire type actual spell that will go against resistances and give me an attack bonus versus you.
Ravenclaw would like to know if there will be a way to challenge guild members or friends in a private duel, even if they're not in a PvP zone.
Yes.
Next question.
Oh, that was easy. Duke Violation had a bunch of questions, so let me see if and they're long, so please be patient. How viable will a new person to combat be, knowing they have fewer skills, weaker armor, lower stats? How much is going to be based on the skill of the player, and how much based on game progression for PvP?
So I think I saw a conversation between Justin, one and only, For those people who know him in the chats and Violation, he forwarded me some questions on that stuff this morning. So a level 1 versus a level 50 is still not going to be a challenge. The thing that we're doing is in mini games, like a level 45 versus a level 50 is not a challenge. The thing we're shooting more for is a level 20 or 30 should have a chance against level 50, not a level 1, which I think was his question.
And if I may add, you know, one of the things that even when we were back at the very early parts of the project that I would describe is, you know, instead of making these exponential curves where very high-level players are many orders of magnitude tougher than a beginner, that we really should think of this more as, you know, contrast yourself, you or I, to an Olympian at any particular sport or chess or dexterity, where you know, any one of us would be, you know, if we went into a boxing match with a professional boxer, you know, you will lose. But if you know 10 or 20 of us jumped in the ring, there's a certain number at which we could probably reasonably take on and wrestle to the ground that Olympian. And it should never be any worse than that from a relative beginner to a relatively advanced person. Now, that doesn't mean that because of Magic and it's a fantasy world, we can't go beyond Olympian. You know, dragons or other bigger things should absolutely be tougher and bigger than even an Olympian. But they should all be in that same, within at least the same order of magnitude, where you know, if it takes 20 people to drag down an Olympic boxer, you know, it might take 100 or a couple hundred people to drag down, even relatively low-level people to drag down, you know, a dragon or something. So we're trying not to get this exponential curve.
And that's actually all the formulas for things are based on square root of things for improvements over time. So rather than being even linear, which is kind of what other games do, but if you make everything linear, your attack damage, your attack chance, your hit points, your damage reduction, all those things, that ends up being a very exponential curve. The thing we're doing is everything's based on a square root of things, so it ends up being a very linear curve in terms of power. But then there's also, in terms of skills, a lot of it is more variety of things. But part of the reason why we don't want a level 1 to have I think his question was a level 1 versus a level 50 or a level 100 person, you know, do they have a 50-50 chance of beating them or some chance of beating them? And that really, it ruins, we need something that, you know, there needs to be some reward for playing the game. We don't want to make it completely impossible, but there needs to be some reward. It's kind of, I mentioned this morning that it was, have you ever been to the websites where you like, how many 5-year-olds can you take? You enter like all your information for your stats, like have you ever been in a fight, how much do you weigh, can you handle yourself, you lift weights? And that's kind of like if you went to one of those websites and like, they kept telling you 2, you can take 2 5-year-olds. We want to get that number up, and that's kind of what the level 1 is kind of the equivalent to a 5-year-old. Now, as soon as you get to like a level 10 or 20, where you're actually getting some extra skills and stuff folding into it, you're getting some mid-level type stuff. That question changes a lot, and it can actually happen. But again, level 1, level 20 versus level 50, there's actually some meaningful chance of it happening. We're also not as heavily.
I had never heard of this site. How many 5-year-olds can you take? But I'm just went there right now, man. After this chat, I'm going there to figure out how many 5-year-olds I can take.
I think I can take like 23 5-year-olds according to the website. I think I can do better than that.
Okay, next.
We'll be sure to post that information later. How many 5-year-olds it takes to best Lord British. Duke Violation also wants to know how much can we expect the rumored PvP skills to change the endgame the endgame experience?
That's a great question. We haven't worked on design for those yet, so don't have a good answer. So moving on.
Okay, Jerk. I think that's how you pronounce it. Wants to know what's the relationship between mana, stamina, and focus.
They're all the same thing. There is one pool of quote energy that we call focus currently, which is basically all those things as one thing: stamina, mana, and right now, magic and combat skills that you use all take from that same pool. That's next question.
Sorry, I got distracted. We've decided in chat that Kinga could take Lord British, so that would be 1. Anyway, Loramus would like to know, and this is for Chris and Star, actually, or Richard, any of you, do we have any more information on what the bounty system will be and if we'll have one? And corpse trophies, which are always a hot topic.
So yes, there will be corpse trophies. We're not backing down from that one. So scalps, teeth, hands, whatever.
Meat.
Maybe edible parts as well. Although I'm slowly being worn down on that one.
And also, the best armor in the game will be a suit made out of Lord British's skin, just so you know.
Yeah. Nice. Wow. Okay. As far as a bounty system, I'm not even sure what that's referring to.
We've been way back. We haven't talked about it in a long time. So the answer is no. We have no more information about a bounty system. I'm not even sure we've talked about it since Star has rejoined the team. It goes way back where we're talking about PvP bounty systems being able to put a bounty on people's heads who are deserving of such.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that's come up in talks, and we've thrown around ideas on it, but we have not. We've got enough other stuff to deal with, and that's one of those systems that does not have huge interdependencies with other things. It's very much something we can add on at the end, and it's probably better then because then we figure out the economics of it if we balance the economy. So we really don't have much more information on it, other than we really do like the idea, and we probably will be doing one.
Okay, next.
Suits of skin, backpacks of buttocks. You guys are making my job in chat so lovely. All right, Corvish from work. He's at work. Ooh. Wants to know, how would friends only online affect open PvP areas and scene-specific resources?
So the overly simplistic, easy answer to that is that you can't go into an open PvP area unless you are an open multiplayer. That it would, if you go into that area in other modes, it would not be a PvP zone, and so it would revert to its standard resource generation stats. That's the easy, simple solve there. Richard says he can take 49 5-year-olds, according to the website.
Okay, Isaiah would like to know what skill or skills are going to be used to determine your chance to be hit or defend against a hit.
So there's a number of skills. Stats also play a role in that. Weapons play a role in that. There's actually some pretty complicated math. I think people have seen the weapons. We showed a little bit of information on the weapons in the past. There's actually about 5 or 6 numbers that go on the weapons that determine a lot about the weapons, and then there's also stats and skills factor into that. There's the math for that has all been done. We're testing out the math right now in our open play sessions, which is why 2 days ago I had to send out the angry email telling everyone stop being level 1 wearing epic plate mail and using ornate halberds. Wear leather armor and the stuff that is your starting gear, because we weren't getting a good test of math. So yes, things factor into it. Probably.
Chris, is your current plan to level gate the wearing of those heavier pieces of armor to prevent that?
No, but they'll have costs associated with them. So basically, the penalties associated with them will get multiplied. If you, like for instance, if your strength isn't high enough, you can still wear the plate armor, but the penalties associated with that plate armor will be multiplied. So our general philosophy for everything in the game is you can pick up and use anything in the game at any time. It's just how it penalizes you will go up or down depending on your level, your stats, what skills you pumped in.
And also because I know there's people out there cringing right now and saying, no, don't make the game gear-based. Epic plate mail does not make you invincible. It does not make you anything. But when we're all playing with level 1 and level 10 test characters, epic plate is pretty hard to get through.
Yeah.
So level 20, level 30, it would not be a problem. But everybody's playing with the lowest level character and using the most powerful armor in the game. So everybody's running around miss, 1 point, miss, 1 point. And it wasn't until some people figured out that there's actually a is it called puncture skill with the
that bypasses armor.
With sharp weapons that bypasses armor, that those people started killing people in the. I think that was one and only started doing that.
Yeah.
So do not worry. This is not. We're not saying the game is gear based, and if you wear epic armor, you get slaughtered. So the other thing to keep in mind, Richard, is if a level 1 did get epic plate mail or some type of powerful armor, there will almost certainly be more powerful types of armor than epic plate mail. That's just what's in there now. We all know, like I said, Skin of Richard will be the, or Lord British will be the most powerful. But part of the thing with owning that is if you're low level and you own that, you will probably not be able to maintain that because there's going to be a high cost of maintenance for it. So
But don't forget, Lorbish's crown with the braids built in has to be the armor of invulnerability.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And you'll never forget
No back doors. No back doors.
Right. Next.
All right, Terminator wants to know, will a character low health slow them down, or will they move at full health speed? So if they're injured, will they slow down?
Currently was not in the works. The sprint skill does use focus, so that can, like, you can move faster and use up focus to move faster. Heavy gear will slow you down. Actually, not heavy, but encumbrance is what slows you down. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're wearing armor and you don't have the correct armor skills, that's one of those things is 20 pounds of armor could add 50 pounds of encumbrance or 100 pounds of encumbrance. Haven't planned out.
Food, the food design, that's one of my things I've been working on the last week or two is nature to nurture, and also how not being having sustenance in your gut to burn will also work against you in that sense.
Yeah, so one of the knobs that food and drink will adjust is speed, both combat and movement speed. So, if you want to maintain the highest regen rates, the highest movement speed, the optimal, attack speed, then you want to be eating and drinking regularly. You'll never be at a point where you can't move or you can't swing a weapon, but it's definitely going to be a benefit to eat and drink. Next.
This next question is perfect for me because I've actually done this in paintball. Will I be able to hit my teammate if I don't watch myself? Is there friendly fire?
Currently still up for debate. Right now in our play sessions, you can damage yourself with AE spells, but you can't damage someone in your party.
Oh, no, you can.
You can?
Oh, yeah. So friendly fire is...
it's still up for debate.
It's up for debate, but I will say that in today's play session, it made for very interesting strategy because you couldn't just do the overpowered, like, I'm going to shoot the fireball all the time, because if one of my teammates happened to be close to that target that I shot the fireball at, they're going to get engulfed in the flame too. And so it made me...
I at least vote until we find out otherwise that we should allow friendly fire to cause damage.
We are at the very least, we are experimenting with it in this build. Okay.
Okay, our next question comes from the Mad Hermit. He would like to know, in regards to hiding in dark places, does that get nullified by people's names glowing over their head? Or if you're in the dark, does your name hide with you?
That's a great suggestion.
So it will hold you up to a point, up to a distance. There's also, that's one of those challenges, as well as the being able to tab target people and whether or not you can see them. Right now, the names don't show up until a certain, like, you're within a certain distance of it. We're working on changing up the nameplates already because I'm not sure if people noticed, but from a tech standpoint, we're doing them wrong. We know we're doing them wrong. We just haven't had time to fix them. Right now, they get rendered into the scene environment. So when you turn on things like anti-aliasing and bloom and stuff like that, your nameplate blooms. So these screen effects, these rendering effects, we're not rendering them as a separate pass. And that just has to do with tech stuff that I won't go into here. But in the long run, we're going to change up how those work. And we can actually pull those to use the light from the scene around it. So we can actually hide those if we want to. And actually, we can do that right now. It's just make those so they're not fully lit, they're not self-illuminated. They actually pull the light from the character. So I've pointed that out, and that is a big concern. Is you can tab target people and you can see their nameplates.
And don't forget that there's two kinds of quote stealth. There's the purely mechanical simulation-based stealth, of which we are talking about right now, which is literally me just hiding in the dark. But then there are skills that will stealth you, and so the skills that stealth you will actually make you so you can't be targeted. You really are invisible. No one's going to see the name overhead, et cetera, until something breaks you out of that, or people are using special skills to counter those. So there's two separate forms of quote stealth.
Yeah, the dark area is not that type of stealth, but it's really easy to ambush people. If you go and stand in dark places and wait for them to come down the hallway, they're not expecting anything, and you can see them coming, especially if they're stupid enough to cast a light spell on themselves. So, yeah. And if not, then they're bumping around, which also makes the see in the darkness type stuff is really important to have. So, yeah.
Okay, our next question comes from Marcelo. If I kill a lot of people in PvP, will the weapon I use become a cool name like Player Slasher or Avatar Killer or something like that?
So weapons now have their own data entry, so we can track things like kills and those things on them. We have not put those in yet. We are tracking metrics internally because we're trying to see what people do here internally. I think I put this in my post, but there's kind of one of those things people don't think that much about. Is you can go and ask people in the forums or ask people like what they want. That really isn't what they want in general. That's half of the equation. The other half of the equation is observing what they actually do. People may say they want something, but you kind of have to look at what they ask for and also what they actually do. So we're trying to track as many metrics as possible to see what people are actually doing. I think the example I gave in the forums is people may, you may have an ice bolt in there that's overpowered, and people will complain about it being underpowered repeatedly because the ice bolt's overpowered. So they end up using far more, and they'll still complain about it because it's what they're using the most. But looking at the metrics and seeing that you guys are already using Ice Bolt a ton, and you're saying it's underpowered, I'm thinking it's overpowered, and that's why you're using it a ton. So it's one of those things we have to look at two things. I forgot how I got onto this topic, but anyways, observing and listening.
And we're about at the end of the hour, so and I have another interview pegged up right at the very end of this, so I at least have to drop off right at the end of the appointed hour.
Chris and I will stay on longer.
Yeah, we'll stay on a little bit longer since we somebody messed us up at the start.
That wasn't me. I think it was you guys with the echo feedback.
Yeah, it didn't go away until you guys dropped. No offense.
Sorry, guys.
Anyways,
In which case, let me just go ahead and do my bow out now. And so, hey, thanks everybody for being with us. Thanks to the evil twins there and Gina also for keeping us going. Obviously, these guys are taking the lead here on the combat stuff and doing a great job. We're having a huge amount of fun playing this here in Austin, and it'll be a lot better here in a week or so when we get it out to you. So I'll see you online and give you a chance to try to kill Lord British. Would you guys make my armor invincible before we go live, or otherwise I'll have to stay hidden somewhere? I won't be able to play. I'll have to go into
Learn to play, Richard. Learn to play.
Oh my God, I'm in trouble. All right, see ya.
Hey, while we have a break here, I want to call out Corvash, one of the guys who's been asking some questions, and I am 95% sure that he's also the one that submitted some absolutely fabulous weapon models that you guys will probably see in game soon. So Corvash, excellent work on those. Those are some of the better, I mean, not just better player-made weapons, but some of the better models for weapons I've seen. So great work on those. I love them. I love the details in them, the handle detail, and all the other different things. So great job. Go Corvash.
And to go back to the original question about the will weapon get a name, yeah, it's still in our plans, and we're all huge fans about the idea that weapons have a reputation based on what you do with them. And so we still have that in our plans to, to kill 100 kobolds, the sword becomes the Kobold Slayer, glows when kobolds are nearby. And the question becomes, well, since we're going to do that, can we do that with PvP as well? I think that's an awesome idea. So maybe, but at the very least, it's an awesome idea. So we will definitely consider it.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, we've already taken the first step towards that stuff, which is weapons, instances of weapons have the data to them, so we can track things like makers, marks, and those things. So it will happen. Don't expect it for R8 or R9. Obviously, we're trying to totally be focused one thing only, which is making combat fun and PvP fun.
Okay, we actually only have a few more questions. The next comes from Ravenclaw. He wants to know if /zone and similar commands will still be available now that PvP is in.
Obviously, they're not going to be in there long term in the way that they are right now. They're still in just because we haven't removed them, but thanks for reminding us.
Yeah. So everyone can blame Ravenclaw when that gets removed.
What we'll probably do is I have on my board one of my many notes to figure out the next week or so is the long-term definition of when you are in combat versus when you are out of combat. Right now, I think we have it as if you've been attacked and you attack, it locks you into combat mode for 20 seconds. So we'll probably expand on that logic a bit, and you will not be able to use /zone if you're in combat combat mode. But it may also just be that we just say, hey, guess what? You can't zone out of a open PvP area, even for now, just because it does kind of ruin the fun of something that's like, I'm going to go hide in the corner for 20 seconds. All I got to do is escape you for 20 seconds, then I can zone out. So.
Yeah, well, right now, I mean, that ties into a question I'm surprised we didn't get, but for R8, our very simple plan, we hope to get more than this, but at the very least, the simple plan right now is that there will be open PvP zones, most likely things like the basements, like the arena basements, maybe a few other maps, but basically, very simplistically, you'll go into this space and it's, you know, deathmatch, everybody versus everybody, unless you're in parties. Very simple, but hopefully we'll get a few more rules than that, but that's the fallback. Base level.
Lorimus wanted to suggest a rare reagent being created from fallen avatars in the chaotic line.
Very interesting idea. Chaos magic requires human stuff. Yeah, cool. I like it.
And similarly, Duke Violation would like there to be a gluttony penalty as well if you eat too much. Our next question comes from Golem Dragon. He wants to know, if you combine the skins of Lord British and the skin of Darkstar, do you get the skin of balance that is the holy relic of the cult of Spears?
Oh, so Spears is balance?
Yeah.
Wow, obviously you guys don't know him very well. Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you manage to get my skin and Lord British's skin, sure, there'll be something cool about that.
All right, our last question comes from Link of Hyrule. He wants to know, will being in a party with a more experienced player help you gain experience as you fight enemies? Also, if time permits, how close do you think we are to live servers being up?
So the first question is about sidekicking. I think most of us are fans of systems that support, you know, the higher level player helping the lower level player. Exactly how much or what kind of systems like that we get in place, don't know, but we like those kinds of systems.
We will probably also have a small party. There will be a experience boost for partying. It'll probably be small, just like in mini games have. So there will be a reason to party. You can advance faster, especially if you work as a team and work together on things. But yeah, we don't know on sidekicking. We hadn't talked about down leveling people or up leveling people, which is one of the sidekick things we do. And the primary reason for that we discussed at one point, but just because a level, it's not like mini games where if you're 5 levels below, you're pointless in a party. Nobody will want you being there. Here you can be 10, 20 levels below and you can still be effective in the party. So the sidekicking stuff is less of an issue. What's the other half?
When are the servers going to be up all the time?
Oh, that.
Definitely by the end of this year.
Do you want to do your celebrity catchphrase with that?
Yeah, don't lure me, bro, but I think that's a pretty safe one.
So the real truth is we're focusing on combat now. It's not. We're going to have a polished milestone after that, but pretty quick we have to start getting into some type of looking at economy. So we'll probably be leaving servers up more as we get later, because some of that economy stuff we can't do it in 4 days a month.
Right.
So we can't go too much longer after that. Not saying that like R11 or R12 guaranteed those are going to be up, but we're getting to the point where we need to start proving out economy stuff, letting you guys exploit things long term. Now, again, also we'll probably start leaving these servers up more, but that doesn't mean that they'll be up 24/7, and that also does not mean that we're not going to hit the reset button and kill all your characters. So, yeah, and that's just with the balancing. We're almost guaranteed we'll have to do that 2 or 3 times. We've got some self-balancing mechanisms in there, but we're going to have to reset. Somebody's going to find a dupe bug. Somebody's going to find a zone that rewards you far more than it should, or some easy way to kill these one things with AE spells, and it throws the economy out of whack. Anyways, soon.
Yeah.
We want it too, people.
we're getting lots and lots of thank yous from the community, and I want to thank you as well, community, for asking such great questions and participating. I haven't seen this many people in a Hangout in a long time, so awesome. Glad you could be with us, and I'll let Star and Chris take us out.
Chris?
Well, just as always, thank you, community. Like I said, I think people probably have noticed I've been far more active in the forums here lately, answering questions, and a lot of that is due to people being so positive and being so constructive. I was stunned. Star and I have a little bit of, you might call it a measuring match for the length of their thread on combat and PvP stuff, which he's ahead right now. His is longer, but mine is far more constructive. It's amazing that 24 pages and there's only a few negative posts in there, people not actually contributing to the conversation. It is awesome to see how positive and constructive people are being, and instead of it being like childish bickering, it's like you can tell it's people being passionate about things that they care about. You know,
If you're not careful, Amber Rain's going to make that into a clip for the radio.
Yeah, something about longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, now you've left me speechless after that longer comment.
Anyways,
but thank you for the compliment.
Thank you, community, and I'll pass it off to Star now.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. We are doing something that not many people have tried before with the way we're developing the product. You know, like we talked about a lot when we have to talk to the press and the community. There's the game we're building, of which we just spent an hour talking about all the game features and the details of the systems, but that's only half the story. The other half is the way we're making this product, which is very, very new and not many people have attempted. And I feel really good about the community we've built with you guys and the kinds of feedback that we get from you. And that doesn't mean it's all perfect, and doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes and we don't sometimes say things we wish we hadn't said, or vice versa. But overall, I think it's in everything we've done has been worth it. Every chance we've taken has paid off, and it's all because we have such an amazing community. So thank you very much, and enjoy your evening. And we can't wait to see you in R8. And as promised, we're going to be doing these at least once a month, and maybe every now and then some ad hoc ones too. But we're definitely committing now to giving you at least one after every release.
You told people about what conventions and stuff we're going to.
Yeah, it's all in the upcoming events. So if you haven't checked the upcoming events section of our webpage recently, I've been spending the last few days updating that, adding a lot more detail about things we're doing during RTX. PAX Prime. So we're going to be at PAX Prime. We're going to be at Dragon Con. I'm going to be at SyndCon as well in August. So hanging out with all the Syndicate guys. And you know, so we've got a lot of stuff happening, and we'll be at Captivate here in Austin in October. So we're trying to get out there, get more people knowing about the game we're building, get them more excited, bring more people to our community. So, and if any of you guys are planning on attending those conventions, make sure you let us know so we can hang out.
And also, I just want to point out also, I'll be at PAX. Star and Richard will be at Dragon Con. You guys have to vote by your attendance and coming by and saying hi if you're backers, so we can prove whether they like me better or Star better.
Ah, yes. I like it.
That is a totally fair contest.
Totally
PAX.
fair. Dragon Con. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.